Have you ever really paused to think about the journey your food takes after you swallow? I mean, it seems simple enough, right? Chew, swallow, energy happens.
Yeah, but underneath that, it's this incredibly complex, super organized system. Just amazing.
Absolutely. And today, that's what we're diving into, the basic setup, the fundamental organization of your gastrointestinal system. We're really going to unpack how it all works.
Right, and we're using Medical Physiology by Boron and Boulpaep, specifically Chapter 41, as our guide. Great text.
Definitely. It's the gold standard.
So our goal here is to, take this sometimes dense material and make it really clear, engaging, and importantly, clinically relevant for you.
We want you to be able to picture it in your head, even without diagrams.
Exactly. We'll start big picture, then zoom in on the details, build it up step by step. Think of it as painting a mental picture of this whole amazing setup.
And honestly, getting this chapter down is so crucial if you're studying physiology, especially for college or medical students.
Oh, for sure. It's the roadmap for basically everything else in GI. Get this, and the rest makes a lot more sense.
Okay, so let's jump in. The GI tract.
Yeah.
It's not just a tube, is it? It's more like a highly specialized assembly line.
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah, fundamentally, it is a continuous hollow tube starting at the mouth, going all the way to the other end.
Okay, anus.
Right. But along the way, it's sectioned off by these specialized muscular rings, sphincters. They act like gates, controlling the flow.
Smart gates.
Pretty much. And it's not just the tube. You've got these crucial accessory glands adding stuff in salivary glands, the pancreas, and the liver with the gallbladder tucked underneath.
Okay, so let's trace the food. Walk us through that sequence. How does food actually change as it moves?
Okay, starts in the mouth. And oropharynx, obviously, that's mechanical breakdown. Saliva gets mixed in, which lubricates everything.
And starts digestion.
Exactly. Salivary amylase kicks off carbohydrate digestion, and lingual lipase starts working on fats. Then you swallow, and it's propelled back.
Into the esophagus, which is mostly just for transport, right? Like a chute.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a muscular tube. Its main job is just moving the food down to the stomach efficiently. Not much digestion happening there.
Okay, then we land in the stomach. Now, this is more than just a bag, isn't it? That's the really surprising thing it does.
Yeah, it does store food temporarily, lets you eat a meal faster than you digest it. But the surprising bit, it's a powerful grinder.
Ah, the churning.
Serious churning, mechanically breaks things down, and chemically it starts protein digestion with enzymes like pectin, plus that lingual lipase keeps working on fats.
And you mentioned something fascinating before about particle size.
Oh, right. This is wild. Solid bits bigger than about 2 millimeters. They just can't get through the pylorus, the stomach's exit door.
No kidding. So they have to be pulverized smaller.
Exactly. The stomach has to grind them down below that size before they can move into the small intestine.
Okay, so after that rigorous processing, it enters the small intestine. If the stomach is the grinder, what's the small intestine's main mission?
The small intestine is absolutely the star player for digestion and absorption. That's its primary mission. This is where most chemical digestion happens, and crucially, where almost all your nutrients get absorbed into your body.
The real workhorse.
Totally.
And then finally, things move into the large intestine. What's its role in the cleanup crew?
Its main jobs are soaking up leftover water and electrolytes, kind of solidifying the waste. Plus, it's home to tons of bacteria that ferment stuff we couldn't digest. Then it stores the fecal matter until, it's time.
It really does sound like a complex symphony. And those accessory glands, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, they're essential conductors, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely indispensable. The pancreas pumps out a whole cocktail of heavy-duty digestive enzymes into the small intestine lipase for fats, protease like chymotrypsin for proteins, amylase for carbs.
And bicarbonate, too.
Yes. Crucially, bicarbonate to neutralize that stomach acid. Otherwise, the pancreatic enzymes just wouldn't work properly. They need a less acidic environment.
Makes sense. And the liver and gallbladder.
The liver makes bile, which gets stored in the gallbladder. Bile gets squirted into the small intestine, and it's essential for breaking up and digesting fats. Think of it like dish soap breaking up grease emulsification. Without bile, fat digestion would be really inefficient.
Okay, so beyond the different organs, if you look at the wall of the gut itself, there's a common pattern, right? A layered structure.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a recurring theme. If you took a cross-section almost anywhere along the tube, you'd see these 4 main layers from the inside out.
Let's start from the inside, the part touching the food.
Right, that's the mucosa. It's got 3 parts itself. The epithelial lining right on the surface, then underneath that, the lamina propria connective tissue with blood vessels, nerves, immune cells, and then a thin muscle layer, the muscularis mucosae.
And that epithelial lining, the surface, it's not just flat, is it? You said it's engineered for absorption. Paint us that picture again.
Okay, imagine the inside of your small intestine. It's not smooth like a pipe. First, you've got these big visible folds, like ridges. Then, covering those folds are millions of tiny, finger-like projections sticking out. Those are the villi.
Like a velvet carpet.
Exactly like that. And then, if you could zoom in even more, each cell on those villi has its own microscopic brush-like border made of microvilli. Plus, the surface dips down into these little pits called crypts.
Wow. So folds, fingers on the folds, bristles on the fingers, and pits.
Right. All of that together just massively increases the surface area. We're talking like tennis court size if you spread it all out. It's all about maximizing contact for absorption. Incredible design.
Okay, layer 2, moving outwards.
That's the submucosa. It's looser connective tissue. You find bigger blood vessels here, lymphatics, and importantly, one of the nerve networks, the submucosal plexus. Sometimes glands, too.
Then the muscle.
Yep, the muscularis externa. Usually 2 thick layers of smooth muscle. An inner circular layer squeeze the tube. An outer longitudinal layer shorten the tube.
And the other nerve network is here.
Right between those 2 muscle layers, that's where you find the myenteric plexus. These muscle layers are the powerhouse for moving food along.
And the final outer layer.
The serosa. It's basically a thin, tough, protective outer wrapping of connective tissue. So yeah, that basic 4-layer structure, mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, serosa is the blueprint, optimized for digestion, absorption, and movement.
So we've got the structure down, but why all this complexity? It's all geared towards getting the nutrients out of food, right?
Yeah.
How does that process of digestion and absorption actually work?
Exactly. You need both digestion breaking food down and absorption getting the nutrients into your body. You need roughly 30 kilocalories per kilogram of body weight daily, just baseline.
And the GI tract is pretty much the only way to get those calories in, right?
Pretty much exclusively, yeah. Especially the small intestine, it's specialized to grab those lipids, carbs, and amino acids.
And digestion starts mechanically, you said. Chewing.
Chewing in the mouth, definitely. And then that powerful churning in the stomach, that mechanical breakdown is critical, especially for hitting that sub-2 millimeter particle size needed to get past the pylorus.
Then the chemical part kicks in. Why do we need chemical digestion?
Well, most of the nutrients we eat are in big, complex forms. Our bodies can't absorb them like that. Think of fats, mostly triglycerides. They have to be broken down into fatty acids and monoglycerides first.
Same for proteins and carbs?
Yep. Proteins and large peptides need to become amino acids or tiny and triteptides. Complex carbs like starch or sucrose need to become simple sugars, monosaccharides like glucose. It's like disassembling complex structures into basic building blocks the body can actually use.
A chemical conversion factory.
Mm-hmm.
So where do all the tools, the enzymes, come from?
They come from multiple places along the line. It starts in the mouth, salivary amylase for carbs, lingual lipase for fats.
Then the stomach adds.
Gastric proteases, like pepsin, start tackling proteins. And that lingual lipase continues to work in the stomach's acidic environment for a while.
But the main enzyme dump comes from?
The pancreas. Absolutely critical. It sends potent enzymes for all 3 major food groups, lipase, proteases like chymotrypsin, and amylase, right into the small intestine.
And the small intestine itself helps finish the job.
Yes. The cells lining the small intestine have enzymes embedded right in their surface, the brush border. Things like disaccharidases and dipeptidases. This is called membrane digestion. The final breakdown happens right at the point of absorption.
Efficient.
Very. And speaking of the small intestine, here's a mind-blowing fact about fluid. It handles something like 8 to 9 liters of fluid every single day.
Wait, 8 to 9 liters? That's way more than anyone drinks.
Exactly. Most of it isn't what you drink. It's saliva, stomach juices, bile, pancreatic juice, intestinal secretions, all poured into the gut to help with digestion. It's a huge fluid load, and almost all of it gets reabsorbed. Understanding that is key to understanding fluid balance.
That fluid point really highlights that the GI tract does more than just process food. What other vital jobs does it have?
Great question. It has several other crucial roles. First, excretion. It gets rid of undigested food waste, sure, but it also helps eliminate other things the body needs to get rid of.
Like what?
Things like heavy metals, iron, and copper are mainly excreted via bile, and certain drugs or their metabolites are also eliminated through the gut, so it's part of the body's waste removal system.
Interesting. What else?
Second, as we just touched on, fluid and electrolyte balance. taking in 89 liters and putting out only about 0.1 liters in stool. That shows its massive reabsorption power.
And when that goes wrong,
Diarrhea? Precisely. Diarrhea is basically too much secretion or not enough absorption. Think about cholera. It can be deadly because it causes such massive fluid and electrolyte loss through the gut. Maintaining that balance is vital.
okay, and a third big role, something about immunity.
Yes, absolutely. The gut is a major player in immunity. It's lined with something called GALT, gut-associated lymphoid tissue. Think Peyer's patches in the small intestine.
And what does GALT do?
It has a dual job, really. One, protect you from the constant barrage of potential pathogens, bacteria, viruses, parasites in your food and drink. Two, it has to tolerate all the harmless food antigens and the trillions of beneficial bacteria that live in your gut. It has to tell friend from foe.
That sounds like a tricky balancing act.
It is. And get this, something like 80% of all the antibody-producing cells in your entire body are located in the small intestine. It's a huge immunological hub.
Wow. And they're non-immune defenses too.
Yeah, things like the strong stomach acid, which kills a lot of microbes, protective mucus lining the gut, the constant motion peristalsis that sweeps things along, and the gut lining itself is a tight barrier.
And if that sweeping motion slows down,
That can cause problems, like stagnant bowel syndrome. Bacteria can overgrow where they shouldn't, leading to diarrhea, malabsorption, sometimes excess fat in the stool area. Movement is important.
okay, this whole system, digestion, absorption, excretion, immunity, movement, it needs incredible coordination. How is it all controlled?
Now we get to the really cool part, the control system. The main internal controller is the enteric nervous system, the ENS.
The mini brain of the gut.
Exactly. It's called that for a reason. It has something like 100 million neurons. That's roughly the same number as in your entire spinal cord. It's a substantial piece of neural machinery.
100 million. Where is it actually located in that gut wall we talked about?
It's mainly organized into two interconnected networks, or plexuses. There's the submucosal plexus, closer to the lumen, mainly controlling secretion, absorption, and local blood flow.
Okay. And the other one?
The myenteric plexus. This one's sandwiched between the two big muscle layers, the circular and longitudinal. It's the main driver of gut motility, the contractions and relaxations that move things along.
And you said it can act on its own, like
Yeah.
dependently?
That's what's so remarkable. The ENS is a complete reflex circuit. It has sensory neurons to detect what's happening in the gut, interneurons to process that information, and motor neurons to control muscle, glands, blood vessels. It can run local reflexes entirely within the gut wall without talking to the brain or spinal cord.
Can you give an example of one of its built-in programs?
Sure. Think about, say, distension, have the gut stretching, or maybe a bacterial toxin showing up. Both can trigger a similar coordinated response from the ENS. Increased fluid secretion to flush things out, and strong propulsive muscle contractions to move the problem along quickly. It's like a pre-programmed defensive maneuver.
And it uses different chemical signals to do this.
Oh yeah, lots of neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine is a major excitatory one, but there's also VIP, nitric oxide, which are often inhibitory serotonin, and many others. The complexity suggests really fine-tuned control.
This independence is amazing, but it doesn't operate in total isolation, right? This brings us to the brain-gut axis.
Absolutely. It's a constant two-way conversation. The ENS handles local stuff, but the central nervous system, brain, and spinal cord provides overarching control via extrinsic nerves.
Like the parasympathetic system.
Right. Primarily through the vagus nerve for most of the gut, down to the colon. These nerves generally stimulate GI functions, increase secretion, increase motility. They talk to the ENS neurons.
And information goes the other way too, from gut to brain.
Yes, that's the other direction. Sensory info from the gut travels up the vagus nerve to the brainstem. This allows for vagovagal reflexes, where the brain receives info from the gut and sends commands back down, coordinating things on a larger scale.
So how does something like stress or even just smelling dinner affect your digestion?
Perfect examples of the brain-gut axis. Stress, the fight-or-flight response mediated by the sympathetic system, can shut down digestion, diverting blood flow elsewhere. Smell or sight of food. Your brain tells your stomach to start making acid before food even arrives.
And signals go from gut to brain too, like feeling full.
Exactly. Hormones released by the gut after a meal, like CCK, travel to the brain and signal satiety. It tells your brain, okay, we're good here.
And you mentioned immune cells getting involved in this communication.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Neuroimmune regulation. Immune cells in the gut, like mast cells, have receptors for neurotransmitters and stress hormones. They can listen to the nervous system, and they can release their own chemicals that talk back to the nerves influencing motility and secretion. It's all deeply interconnected.
So ENS, hormones, external nerves, immune system. It sounds like there are multiple layers of control.
Definitely. There's a lot of redundancy built in, which is good. It makes the system robust and ensures things keep working even if one pathway is maybe not optimal. It's a fail-safe design.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the actual movement's motility. What are the main jobs of gut movement?
Motility basically does three key things. First, churning and mixing. These are contractions that slosh the contents back and forth, mixing food with digestive juices and bringing nutrients right up against the gut wall for absorption. Helps break down that unstirred water layer.
Okay, mixing. Second.
Propulsion. Moving things forward. This is mainly peristalsis, that wave of relaxation ahead of the food bolus, followed by a wave of contraction behind it, pushing it down the line.
And third.
Reservoir function. Some organs, especially the stomach and the large intestine, need to hold on to contents for a while. Motility patterns and sphincters allow them to act as temporary storage areas.
How does the muscle itself make these different kinds of movements happen?
The smooth muscle cells in the gut wall are pretty special. They can maintain sustained tonic contractions, like keeping a sphincter closed, or they can produce rhythmic, phasic contractions, like peristalsis.
And they have their own electrical rhythm.
Yeah, they have this baseline electrical activity called slow waves. These aren't contractions themselves, but they're like rhythmic fluctuations in voltage. If a slow wave reaches the threshold potential, then it can trigger action potentials and calcium entry, causing the muscle to contract.
So the slow waves set the rhythm, but nerves and hormones decide how strong the contractions are.
Exactly. Nerves and hormones modulate whether those slow waves actually lead to strong contractions, fine-tuning the motility based on whether you've eaten, what you've eaten, and so on.
Now, you mentioned sphincters earlier as gates. Let's talk more about these GI sphincters.
Right, these are crucial. They're basically specialized rings of circular muscle that act as one-way valves most of the time. They maintain a positive resting pressure, they're normally closed, and they relax at specific times to let things through, regulating both forward and sometimes backward flow.
Okay, let's do a quick tour. Starting at the top, the upper esophageal sphincter, UES.
Right at the junction of the pharynx and esophagus. Unique because it's striated muscle, like your biceps. It has a very high resting pressure and needs to coordinate perfectly with swallowing and breathing. It clamps shut when you inhale so you don't suck air into your esophagus.
Then further down, the lower esophageal sphincter, LES. This one causes problems sometimes.
It certainly can. The LES is smooth muscle separating the esophagus from the stomach. Its main job is to relax, to let food into the stomach, then tighten up again to prevent stomach acid from refluxing back up.
And if it doesn't tighten properly?
That's GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, heartburn, esophagitis, very common.
And the opposite problem can happen too.
Yes, that's achalasia. Here, the LES fails to relax properly during swallowing, and peristalsis in the lower esophagus is often weak or absent. Food gets stuck. It's thought to be due to a loss of the inhibitory nerves that normally release VIP and NO to make the sphincter relax.
How's that treated?
Often by physically stretching the sphincter with a balloon or surgically cutting the muscle, a Henle myotomy.
And you mentioned primary and secondary peristalsis in the esophagus.
Right. Primary peristalsis is the wave triggered automatically by swallowing. Secondary peristalsis is a backup if something gets stuck, or if acid reflux is up, the distension triggers another peristaltic wave locally to try and clear it.
Okay. Moving down. Pyloric sphincter.
Between the stomach and the duodenum. Helps regulate how quickly the stomach empties its contents. It's not just the sphincter muscle itself, but coordination with the stomach antrum and duodenum that controls emptying.
Then the ileocecal sphincter.
Valve between the end of the small intestine, ileum, and the start of the large intestine, cecum. Controls flow into the large intestine and, importantly, prevents bacteria-rich colonic contents from flowing backward into the small intestine.
Then finally, at the very end, the anal sphincters. There are two.
Yep, two. The internal anal sphincter is involuntary smooth muscle, responsible for most of the resting tone that maintains continence. The external anal sphincter is striated muscle under both voluntary and involuntary control. You can consciously tighten it.
And the reflex for defecation involves these.
Yes, the rectosphincteric reflex. When the rectum fills and distends, it triggers an involuntary relaxation of the internal sphincter. That gives you the urge. If it's not convenient, you consciously contract the external sphincter.
Is there a clinical condition related to problems here?
A major one, especially in newborns, is Hirschsprung disease. Its congenital kids are born without nerve cells, ganglion cells, in a segment of the distal colon. That segment can't relax, stays constricted, and causes a functional obstruction. Waste backs up. The colon proximal to it can become massively dilated megacolon, often needs surgery to remove the aganglionic segment.
Wow. Okay, so we have these movements in gaits. Does the pattern of movement change depending on whether we're fasting or have just eaten?
Big time, especially in the small intestine. It operates in two distinct modes, fasting and fed.
Tell us about the fasting state. What's happening when we haven't eaten for a while?
During fasting, the small intestine exhibits this pattern called the interdigestive myoelectric complex, or MMC. Some people call it the migrating motor complex.
What does it do?
It's basically a series of strong, synchronized contractions that slowly sweeps down the entire length of the small intestine. It happens roughly every 90 to 120 minutes. Think of it as the gut's housekeeper.
Housekeeper. Sweeping what?
Sweeping out any residual undigested material, slough cells, mucus, and importantly, bacteria. It keeps the small intestine relatively clean between meals. It can even move those larger than 2 millimeter particles that got left behind by the stomach. Motilin is a key hormone involved in triggering MMCs.
Okay, so that's fasting. What happens when you eat?
As soon as you start eating, the MMCs stop abruptly. The gut switches to the fed state pattern. This is characterized by much less organized, more localized contractions. You get segmental contractions back and forth churning from mixing happening simultaneously in different areas. And you also get short bursts of peristalsis to slowly propel the food along. It's geared towards maximizing digestion and absorption time.
Does the large intestine have these distinct fasting and fed patterns too?
No, not really. The large intestine's motility is less clearly separated into fasting and fed states. Its main jobs are different, absorbing that last bit of water and electrolytes, absorbing short-chain fatty acids from bacterial fermentation, storing waste, and controlled elimination.
So what kind of movements does it use?
In the proximal colon, ascending and transverse, the main pattern is non-propulsive segmentation. These are churning contractions that create the characteristic pouches you see, called haustra. This mixes the contents and helps with water absorption.
But things have to move eventually, right?
Right. The main propulsive movement in the colon is called mass peristalsis, or mass movement. This only happens maybe 1 to 3 times a day. It's a very powerful wave of contraction that sweeps contents much further down the colon, often from the transverse colon into the descending or sigmoid colon, maybe triggering the urge to defecate.
And the distal colon?
The distal colon, descending sigmoid rectum, is more focused on final drying and storage. It also has segmentation, and mass movements propel feces into the rectum, which then initiates those defecation reflexes we talked about involving the anal sphincters.
It really is amazing how each part has such a specialized role, all within this one long tube.
Absolutely. If we pull back and look at the big picture again, what we've really seen is that the GI system is so much more than just a simple pipe for food.
Yeah, it's this incredibly complex integrated network, isn't it?
Exactly. Specialized organs, these intricate layers in the wall, its own mini-brain, the ENS, hormones acting locally and systemically, even a huge immune component, all constantly talking to each other.
It's just an amazing example of biological engineering, handling digestion, absorption, waste removal, fluid balance, even immunity, all with such precision and redundancy too.
That redundancy is key. It makes the system resilient. So this foundational knowledge, understanding this organization, is crucial. You've really built a solid base today.
Hopefully breaking it down like this helps it stick. You can see how understanding the normal function sets you up to understand what goes wrong in disease.
For sure. Getting these basics from Chapter 41 down really paves the way for tackling more complex GI physiology and pathology later on.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions. Mastering this stuff is absolutely achievable, and you're well on your way.